Now, another thing I want to talk about are some of the chemicals that are involved with wrapping, and they're mainly used for adhesion promotion. A lot of times when you're tucking in material to like an area where there's going to be a lot of curves or something like that, basically these are perfect for bike wraps because there's a lot of tension on the material, so you got to use like all the extra little things that 3M has that helps you have more of a professional looking wrap. One of the products is 3M Edge Sealer 3950. Now 3M's really good about naming their products with a number, kind of like the military does, but basically it's an edge sealer and it allows you to put just an extra amount of adhesive around the edge after you put on your install, and this is going to help those ends from peeling up on the end. Another thing that's really important is Primer 94. Now Primer 94 actually goes down before your wrap goes onto the surface. Primer 94, it works a little bit like especially with this applicator, it works like those things you can write on your car window with if you're going to like a football game or something. Ideally you would put this along the back edge of where you're going to wrap your material around to the back side of the bodywork, and you would apply it and allow it just a couple minutes to kind of tack up, and then you'll notice it's going to be extra sticky for when you wrap those edges around. They also make this in a can form that comes with a brush, but because bikes are so small, you're not really using a lot of this stuff. Just a little easy applicator like this works great. Another thing that's really nice to have, especially when you're wrapping the material around a lot of curves and things like that, you know, you're going to stretch the material in some places that, let's say for something like a van, you might not stretch it as much, but with a bike, you know, there's curves around the tank, around the tail, there's duct work that it has to go into. You're going to use a torch, or you can actually use a hobby heat gun. And you can buy these heat guns for around $40 to $200 range. These you can buy at Lowe's Hardware for around 20 or 30 bucks. Just make sure that you have a trigger start so you don't have to turn it on and then use a lighter. If you can just click it like that and turn it on, it's great. Now these are really tricky. If you're an amateur, you've never worked with vinyl, you might want to test some areas. You might want to look on some videos on YouTube and watch some people using it. But there's a certain range away from the tip where you can kind of heat up and move the vinyl, and you'll see that the vinyl will actually, it'll become a little bit wavier looking. If it's stretched and it has wrinkles and you pulled it back up and you just wanted to kind of relax all those wrinkles, you can kind of go over it with the torch a little bit, and it'll allow the wrap to kind of do a couple different things. If you're stretching out an area where there's wrinkles and you want to just relax those wrinkles, it'll bring it back to like it was. If you're wanting just a little bit more give in the material to stretch, you can heat it up as well with a torch and it'll stretch it. Also, after you press in areas with indentions or anything like that, or air ducts in your bodywork, after you press it in, if you kind of heat it up with this, it'll relax the material and allow it to kind of set in to reduce the memory or the tendency for the material to pop back to its original shape. So a torch is definitely handy. Another tool that you're definitely going to use is a squeegee. Now there's lots of different squeegees on the market. There's some that are made for applying cut vinyl. This one happens to be a silicone squeegee. Now they cost a little bit more, but they hold up a little bit better, and in some cases you don't need to use a felt edge liner or sleeve for those, but I actually do have a felt sleeve for this one, and you can buy these at wrap supply stores as well. But they go across the front, and then of course you have a smooth, soft surface to squeegee down the vinyl rather than just using plastic up against the vinyl, and that'll help you not to actually scratch the wrap material as you're putting it on. They also make a couple different squeegees that have like the soft side of Velcro, like the hook and loop style. It looks like a fuzzy area on the edge. Those work really well too. So just you know, check out a couple different ones and see which ones you think would work best for you. Another really important tool is to have an X-Acto knife or a hobby knife of some sort. These hobby knives are really important because if you just try to use a box cutter or a razor blade or a sharp knife or something like that, you're not going to get the tapered edge like this has. This has that classic, really sharp X-Acto knife cut to it. And one thing that's really important and special about these type tools is that whenever you're trailing along and you're pulling the knife behind you like that, you'll notice that that tip actually promotes you to have a straighter cut. You may be watching videos on TV of a pinstriping a car or something, and they'll have a really long brush that they're using to kind of trail along like this to get a really straight pinstripe. Same concept with these. Make sure that you have a really sharp, a new blade, and also this style blade with that pie-shaped cut to it. So it's going to be giving you a lot more accurate cut. And there's only a couple areas on the bike where that cut's crucial, and that's going to be the gas tank. There may be a couple other areas where you might trim it and things like that, but for the most part, the wraps are going to wrap around to the back side of the bodywork. So the cut's not too crucial, but then again, in some areas it is. Another really important tool, and this is one that takes a little bit of research. If you're like a novice, let's say you're working only with car wraps or something like that, you may have not have used something like this before. This is 3M stripping tape, and stripping tape is really special and unique in that the adhesive side of the vinyl doesn't stick to the top of it or the back side of it. And the reason that this is important is because if you're overlapping areas on let's say like a surface like the gas tank where there's pieces that overlap, there's really no way to overlap those and then trim it and cut it and get a really nice clean cut without accidentally cutting through to the bottom side or even cutting all the way through to the gas tank and perhaps scratching your paint on your tank, and that would not be good at all. So this stuff right here works really well because you can fold in the bottom vinyl, and then you can actually put on a strip of this tape, and then you can put on the top layer and actually cut on top of that tape. And then you can just pull away the tape and pull away the excess vinyl and go ahead and press it on down to the bottom layer. So it works really well, and with it not sticking to the back of the tank, to the back of the tape, that top layer, the edge of it where you trim it, it's not going to distort when you pull away the tape. It's actually going to come away quite easily. So that's pretty much it, folks, for the materials that you're going to need. You will also need probably a nice work table. You might want to cover it with a clean blanket or something like that so that your parts won't get scratched. Other than that, good luck with your rack, and feel free to email with any questions. Thank you.